we're going to start off today over here. And I thought what I would start with are some of the basics that you can use to do home arrangements. And of course, the first suggestion is pick up your clippers and go out in your garden, because there's so much out there when you look at it in those terms that you will find things that you never even thought to use. But before we get out to the garden, you're going to have to know how to put things together. And you have several means to do that. You've probably seen these. These are called frogs. And there are lots of different kinds. This one is glass. This one is all needles. It's very sharp.
And it looks, you could torture someone with that
You
thing.
could, if you, well, we won't go there.
Acupuncture.
Yes, health reasons. And there are ceramic ones. So you find these a lot in thrift stores or yard sales, online, of course, but look at what it is, the size of the hole, and what you're planning to use it for. Of course, some other basics would be your flower food and wire. Wire, if you're needing to wire some things together, a nice thin pliable wire will do wonders. But let's get into the good stuff over here. A lot of what I brought today is from my garden. I have this beautiful cryptomeria, and it's called Nana elegans, I believe. Okay, and it's a gorgeous low-growing shrub, more wide than it is tall, extremely healthy, and it's not super soft, but it's not going to jag you either. So this is a very nice one to use, and it's got a very nice draping effect. So we're going to work with this vase right here. So we'll clip a little piece of that. When I'm working with any kind of pine or evergreen and putting it in water, I find that everything stays nicer and cleaner if you scrape off the top layer of the bark. They just have a tendency to be dirty, and that's going to soil your water, which will then create bacteria. So just cleaning it up a little bit is going to help that stay fresh. And we're going to put that one this way. So already 2 pieces in there, and you've got the base of a very pretty arrangement. Some of the things I brought from my garden are a variegated osmanthus.
Is that goshiki?
It is. And it's just as happy as can be. And when I'm doing a large arrangement, you're always going to end up with stubby little pieces that you say, I can't use that in there anymore. So I would normally do a taller arrangement and a shorter arrangement pretty much at the same time, because I don't like to waste flowers or the pretty things. So this is a good way to use them. In this one, I'm using Oasis, which is a floral foam. There's nothing in here yet. So this is the type for fresh flowers. You cut it, totally immerse it in water to totally hydrate it, and then it will give moisture to your flowers or your greenery for quite some time. You do have to refill it because the greenery does drink from this as well. And I find it to be reusable to some extent. I'm trying to get out of the sun here a little bit. You can reuse it to possibly 3 times, as long as you don't let it dry out. Once it dries out, toss it. So it is disposable, unlike the frogs that you can reuse innumerable times. So we're going to kind of follow the same theme here with having a soft piece. These would be green arrangements that you could just about use anywhere, and you make your arrangements fit wherever you're going to want them. Do you want them on a table, a dining room table? You'd want to keep to something lower. A buffet or a piece of furniture against the wall, you'd want to go with something with more height to it. So let's use some of this osmanthus. If there's something that doesn't look right, you can resolve that quite readily. This is so bright and colorful, and during the winter months, I think that's a super important thing to look for, is having something that makes you feel cheerful and brightens your day.
And the great thing about that, it'll last for a long time, and you might put some other flowers in here. You can swap things out later on.
Right, yeah.
And it doesn't have to be anything real special, but putting things together in combinations, you can come up with something that really looks nice.
You can.
And it's simple.
And the only way you learn to do that, as we all know, is to play with it and try it out and see how it looks. Instead of the cryptomeria, if you don't have anything like that, we'll get over here later, but you probably cut off some branches from your Christmas tree. And that will give you a good greenery base here. So we're going to use some of the osmanthus in here. See, these are the little pieces that are perfectly beautiful, but they just get lost. They could never reach the water over there. And what we want to do here is to hide this oasis. You don't want that to show. So we're going to take these little pieces and put them around the bottom of the oasis so they hang over and somewhat soften the edge of the base. So we'll use a little more of that. I think it's always a fun thing to do. Just go out and cut. But remember, you're pruning at the same time. And I think that's especially important when you're working on something that's a shrub and that's an evergreen. You don't want to hack at it so that you end up with something ugly. And then you say, why did I cut that? Well, it wasn't that you cut it. Maybe you cut it in the wrong spot. So think about all that as you're clipping. Also, think about, do you want your arrangement to face one direction? Or is it going to be someplace where it will be viewed from all sides? So just a lot of things to think about when you're putting these together.
Yeah, at this time of the year, you can prune your shrubs and use them in the house, especially for your decoration for Christmas or other holidays we have. So, but you can do this any time of the year too, and it brightens things up so much. It
does. It does. Well, this rates year-round is one of my all-time favorites. It's Dania racemosa, which is called Poet's Laurel, and it is so hardy and happy. And
bring this over here so
I think so. That would be much better. And let's maybe put the other things on the other side so that they don't conflict. So one reason this is so spectacular, these are all branches. And when you're using this in an arrangement, I tend to cut it right at one of the branches. So you have this piece to use for a background piece, and then you've got the top of it, which is, of course, everybody likes to cut the top of the piece, and then they throw away the rest of it. Well, you don't have to do that. You do have to trim and edit and take off these extra pieces, because you always want to make sure that you have no greenery or minimal greenery in your container. By using this cryptomeria as a base, it's going to do really well to help hold in those other pieces. So that's going to be, instead of using...
It's your frog.
And that's my frog. Here's the frog right here.
It's a living frog. It's just not a polywog.
Right. It's not going to hop around for us. So as you can see, we're filling it right in here without very much at all. So as you go out in the garden, you can just pick up a few things here and there. It doesn't have to be a lot. Now, I did come over here a little while ago to pick up some things from this beautiful garden, and one is this Camellia japonica. This is the flower. I think it is so spectacular.
It's one we've had for decades. We don't even know the identity of it. It's just a simple, single red Camellia japonica, and it flowers for months.
And it's a gorgeous red. It's not washed out at all. I think it's a beautiful color. What you need to know about camellias is these are especially beautiful if you're putting an arrangement together for use the same day. They do have a tendency to shatter. That means the flower will not gently open and be beautiful for long periods of time, but they might drop. It depends on the variety that you're cutting, but that's generally what happens with camellias, that they do have that tendency. But if you're putting this together in the morning for a dinner party, that's going to be perfectly beautiful.
And you have this base, though, that you can reuse for so many different things. And when that camellia is done, you can either go cut some more camellias a few days later, or you might go buy some roses at the supermarket and add in there, and you can just swap them out with that in that base.
You know, it breaks my heart when I see somebody who has a beautiful arrangement, possibly they've done it or received it from a florist, and 2/3 of it is beautiful, and the rest of it is dead, dried, and shriveled, and they just let it sit. And I gently try to suggest that they pull out the dead stuff and put in something fresh, and they would have a whole new arrangement. So some folks just choose to do that, and some do not. Here's what I think is a beautiful example. Now, although this flower is spent, this is what's left, and that in itself is very, very pretty for in an arrangement. That's why this camellia is so gorgeous.
They're nice in that they don't hold the spent flowers on them like and look ugly. They shed them. They clean themselves. They're self-cleaning.
Self-cleaning.
So they're never ugly unless it's like the day after a hard freeze. But other than that, yeah.
Well, that's understandable too. So we're going to put some more in the little one. Now, when you have a bud, the bud, I think itself adds texture and looks pretty even when it's not open. So you get a little bit something more out of just, more so than just the greenery or the flower itself. Here's one of them that's fully open, and I'm going to trim that leaf so that that flower itself is more visible. So we're going to put that guy right in the front where he can where he can show off. What else do we have here? Here's a plant that I think is not all that unique, and this is Sarcocoa hookerina. The common name would be
it's a sweet box.
Uh-huh.
So it's a cousin of the boxwoods. And they flower in the winter too, so they're not quite open yet. We have another species in the garden. That's probably ruscifolia or something. But
you can see some of the buds right here, so they're not open, but yet another piece that's going to give you a little bit of texture and something that's a little bit eye-catching.
But when they do open, if you bring them in, you can get a light fragrance from them, as their name implies, of being sweet. Sweetly fragrant.
So this is about as tall as they grow. It's called a ground cover. It's a little bit tall, I think, for a ground cover.
That might be Hookeriana.
Hookeriana?
I'm going to guess.
Okay. It is hooker. Yeah, I've always pronounced it hookerina, but I will learn from
Something
you,
like
Tim.
that.
I will learn from you.
There's quite a few species, actually.
Yeah?
That's one of the real short ones. There's some others that go up to 3.5 to 4 feet tall. So.
Okay. Well, this one does not get that tall.
Yeah. That one's a great one for a ground cover.
Yes. And it's very happy where it is.
It's a great for a cut material.
Yes.
Just like its cousin, the boxwood, they last forever in an arrangement. And you can probably even root them, much like a boxwood. It might root in that oasis if you left it there long enough.
It may well do that. And here again, I'm using my knife. This is my favorite knife when I'm doing flowers. It has this little curve in it. And so it works very well for cleaning the stems. So we're going to put that in here and fill that in. So it does have a fruit, almost totally useless, but
they're black or red,
hidden.
depending on the species.
Yeah. So we're going to fill this small one in a little bit, and then you can tell the work at the Arboretum goes on continually. It never stops, even as we're filming a program here. But that's okay. That's what's supposed to happen. But see how this comes out, and it's pretty tight and very much together. So you just pull out what you need. And the oasis holds it right up. Now, I can't see the other side of this from where I am, but we're just about done with both of these. And then what I think is, when you've got all of this beautiful greenery, you just need a little touch of something. So I went and decided on making a little purchase of baby's breath, gypsophila, and we're going to put that in here. I think white draws your eye.
This would be perfect for the season, too.
Right.
With red and white and green.
And not only that, but this will dry in place. And so you're really getting a fresh flower. And then you can just pull it out once it's dry and hang it up and use it in a dried arrangement. It's just...
you get a lot of bang for your buck out of that.
You do indeed. It's a twofer, fresh or dried. And I think it is sold very much as a filler, and that's what it does extremely well. So we're going to give it just a punch of color. Very important, where is it? Here. This is very important. When I bought this package of baby's breath, here was a notice that was on the wrapper. It says, warning, not for human or animal consumption. So I'm telling you that so that we're perfectly safe, and we don't want you buying this to feed it to your family or your pets.
Might be one you don't want to put on your food as a decoration.
Although you could, as long as they know it's not edible. Yeah. But I thought, will that ever go away? And I think the answer is probably not. So I did find that somewhat amusing. So just a little wisp of white. we'll bring everything to life there. And
It's the snow sprinkled through the arrangement.
it does look like snow. And then we'll do the same thing to the little guy over here to kind of pull this one together. That's too big. So what we're going to do, I'm finding this to be too big, so I'm going to take it down to right here, which will give me this piece and this piece. Again, no waste here, nothing to throw away. And we'll just tuck it in. And I think this particularly makes for a very Christmassy look. If you're still shy of color that you would like to put in your arrangement, you can always put in a bow, some ribbon, some tinsel, an ornament. So lots of things that you can do to just
Here's
kind of bring
something I
it to
forgot
life.
about. I thought I was going to get, but I don't know.
Oh,
Fruit, you know.
fruit would work in yours. One thing yet I want to share with you that I cut, and I think this might be something that many, many people would find available. This is wax myrtle, and these are often done as hedges along roads. A lot of people.
Native all over the coast.
It is native. And the most interesting thing about it, it has these gorgeous blue-gray berries on it. And when you peel off the berries and process them, this is where they originally made candles. Thus, the name wax myrtle. So the wax was used for candles. So if you're ever in the mood to make your own candles, you could go and gather these and do it yourself for those of you who want to do some crafts. So we're going to put a little bit of the myrtle in there.
It also, if you crush the foliage on it, smells really nice.
Yeah.
It's another aspect of that.
So we'll just add a little touch of seed in here and the berries. But, you know, this is ubiquitous. It's all over the place on the side of the road. And you look at it and you pass it by and you don't even think about it. And then you look at it more closely and you can find that it's very pretty. And works well in arrangements. So that'll give you some ideas on how to put everything together and have some fun for your holidays. Let's see, what do we need here? A little bit more of this over here. Okay, so got lots of fun things here. I encourage you to explore, see what you can find, see what you can do out of your own yard. And of course, we've got way too much material here. Tim, what do you have over there?
I have a menagerie of things over here. Some I did arrangements of, and just very quickly threw them together this afternoon. And a few that our volunteers had took a lot longer to throw together and made them much nicer than mine together. This was done by, what was
Joyce
Moser. Or
Joyce
Moser?
Joyce Moses.
Moses.
Joyce is on our floral design team. There are several of us who get together and do the floral arrangements in the visitor center here and in the visitor center down there. So it's a whole team of us who do this, who have this wonderful job of being able to cut some things from the Arboretum and make arrangements from them.
So what Joyce put in here, it looks like, she has, you know, some things that everyone's going to have in their yard around here in the Raleigh area, probably. There's holly, you know, we all on every landscape they put a holly in. So you may have some roses. No, they're knockouts or whatever. This is one of the ones, I can't remember the name, which one this is, but this is one from our rose garden. Still having a few flowers on it. She was able to use some of those. We have an asparagus actually in here. This is asparagus variegatus, which you can buy that one at the florist, but it's also, if you can get a start of it, it's really easy to grow. We have masses of it in the garden. She used a variety of other foliage in here, some aspidistra, so cast iron plant. A lot of people have that in their yards as well. Great, very long-lasting cut foliage.
And fantastic evergreen too.
Yes. I mean, she has a piece of Juniperus conferta here, it looks like. As well. So a lot of us have junipers, again, used in our landscapes. These are things you would have around. There are some things in here that aren't widely available. This variegated Daphnophyllum here. Becoming more widely available is this Elysium Parviflora, Florida Sunshine, yeah. And there's a kind of Elaeagnus she has used in here, and Arum Italicum, if anybody has that. Well, we have a tiny bit of it in the garden. It has naturalized everywhere. It's a great winter growing plant, but it does self-sow, I will warn you. But wonderful foliage on that. Excellent in an arrangement. So you got some texture and some color in there. Another small arrangement she did some Nandina. This is a gold-fruited Nandina. And then she has some Elaeagnus in here, a variegated Elaeagnus, a little bit of white pine, or one of our pines from the garden. And she managed, I know there were some of these growing in a few spots still. We still had some Allium tuberosum in flower, so garlic chives. And she has a little branch of yew here, one of the taxus species. Oh, yeah, it's a yew, not a cephalotaxus. Oh, there's that. No, take that back. That's a cephalotaxus, so that's a plum yew. And again, she used the asparagus in here in the arum. Along with the rose. So she kept that together. So I stole some of her stuff to use, and I made just a table display here. I don't know if you can see this, but I just went out. So if you're having a party this tomorrow or whatever, something simple you can do. A lot of people here in Raleigh and in the further east grow fatsias. This is a fatsia that's not as common, a fatsia polycarpa, but fatsia leaves, I use those just kind of like as a base. And then Kathleen has its cousin, or its offspring. This is Fatshedra, which is a cross between an English ivy, and a Japanese Aralia. Yeah. But Kathleen had mentioned that you can use trimmings from your Christmas tree. I used some boughs here from Fraser fir. You might have to trim them off whenever you're before you put your tree up in the stand. So don't throw those away. You can use those for something. Again, I used a juniper here. This is a Juniperus virginicus, Glauca compacta, and a Calicarpus, so one of the beauty berries. And if you've listened to any of the other talks I've done in the last couple times this fall, or summer and fall, I've talked about this plant. This is one of my favorites for its foliage. This is Buddleia loricata. It's beautiful white undersides of the leaves. I just use this, cut, it will dry like this. So easy to use. There are some ginger lily flower stalks. So hedechiums, butterfly gingers. These are in the garden right now, and I hate to throw them all away. They haven't gotten mushy in the garden. We haven't had wet fall, so they're standing upright. Just cut a few of those, and they work really well. Another plant that's becoming really popular here in the Raleigh area is, it's a privet. I do not normally condone privets, but this is one I adore. It does not flower, so it does not become a weed. This is Ligustrum sunshine. It's an introduction from Pat McCracken, who lives over in the Zebulon area. But you see it used a lot around here, so I know it's in the landscapes and it's widely available. So these are some things that you might have. Also in here, I have another plant. This is actually a Calicedris. I don't know if you can see that, but that might not be commonly used. But you might have some green giant arborvitaes, which would give you the same texture as the Calicedris. So I tried to use some things that you might have. In this arrangement, let's see, I used some pine boughs. This is actually a hybrid white pine, Mexican white pine, more or less. And then I just took like 2 stalks of that. Some of you may be either planting in your gardens now, euphorbias, which are great for winter interest, but they also flower in the spring and early summer. And I took some of the foliage of that. This is Euphorbia Canyon Gold, and a few twigs of a Cornus sanguinea. Yes, Midwinter Fire, and I accentuated those, picked up some of those colors, which we had a flowering cherry. This is one of the Prunus incisas, and actually that would look really nice in here. But anyways,
Well, we can do that.
yeah, we can do that. They would. I mean, a lot of people I've been seeing around Raleigh, in particular, we have autumn flowering cherries. And this gives that same appearance. This is a similar species, but in a few weeks we'll have Prunus mumes here in Raleigh in particular, and here in the garden we have them. JC promoted those. And then I took a couple camellias, which lots of people have camellias in their garden. So I just used 4 or 5 things in here. And what Kathleen's adding here is a Symphoricarpus, which is a coral berry. And this is one we have in the garden. I love this thing. It dries like this. The birds don't touch it until very late. So we have the interest all through the winter on that. And it's excellent either in a fresh or dried arrangement. Use it in wreaths even.
Well, thank you for pronouncing that.
Symphoricarpus.
I added some to my arrangement,
Yeah.
but I wasn't going to say what it was because I had a real challenge.
I just
with
spit
the
it out quickly and
pronunciation.
hope no one questions. So I might not be saying it quite right, but I just kept it simple. And so when the cherries are done, you can swap that out with, say, maybe the baby's breath if you don't have anything else. Or if, again, you could swap the camellias out with roses from the florist or even from the grocery store.
Yeah.
And if you don't have anything else. And then some berries, you can, from the holly in your yard. So that's just an easy one you can throw together, can swap it out. Something simple, which I cannot move, unfortunately. But I get this idea from a friend of mine. Many of you may know Brie Arthur. She's a friend of the Arboretum. She got the idea, I believe, from Chanticleer, that they float flowers in a bowl. Chanticleer does all their stuff during the summer, because they're closed during the winter. But Brie takes her empty containers that she has for her, she grows rice actually in containers and without holes, and she floods those through the winter, and she floats flowers on them all winter long. So she's been posting some pictures on her Facebook site in the last few days, and I saw those. And anyways, she's floating camellias. So I threw some camellias in here, and I have a few winter sweets, Chimonanthus praecox.
Well, can you?
I'll show that down here.
Okay.
That takes me to my
Here's
next.
this camellia. Yeah.
Yeah, so I just floated some of those there. Simple. This might not last long, especially in the house, but what Brie does, for instance, she has them sitting outside her doorway. So it greets her as she goes out the door. And they'll last a lot longer outside, and you can swap them out every couple weeks. Or every couple, once a week probably. But you can do chrysanthemums, and she'll do Edgeworthia here whenever they start coming into flower. So there's all kinds of things you can do in that. But it's simple. You can put it on your table for just a simple arrangement to have out for if someone's coming to visit, especially at this time of the year. And going back to the one that Kathleen was showing over here, I also had in here as little yellow flowers, is I have some winter sweet in here. This is, again, the Chimonanthus praecox. And this is almost overwhelming standing right next to this right now. This will perfume a room. I have 3 twigs of it in here. And then I have a little bit of the golden privet here, again, the sunshine privet, and another sprig of Calicedrus, some Calicarpa, so beauty berries again, some dried spent flowers, seed heads of Rudbeckius subtomentosa. Let's see, Little Henry. They flowered this summer, and they look really nice in the garden right now. So I just stuck some of those in there, and a couple leaves of some of our hardy cyclamens. You might not have those, but you might have hellebores. Lots of people have those. I like to put those at the base of arrangements to drape over the edge. And hellebores are going to be coming into season. That's another one you can float really well. So those are a few things I've come up with here. And earlier I was throwing these around. These were ones I forgot to get fruit, but I threw some of these in here that we had sitting over here off to the side. But you can use fruit. Just set that on around the base of your stuff. It kind of makes things like what it would be.
Well, something like lemons, limes.
Yeah, I'm thinking like a still life,
mixed with grapes and apples. You know, depending on the size of the bowl you want to use. If you don't have the flowers.
So these are some citrus we have in the garden over here that people keep on asking us about, and we keep on saying take them away because they fall and rot if we don't get rid of them. So they're hybrid citrus, not the greatest to eat, though they are edible. So, anyways, that's a few things I've done right here. So,
well, hopefully that'll give you some ideas.
Yeah, that's what we're trying to do.
So when we're done here, you just grab your clippers and go outside and find an arrangement. It's so beautiful today. Take full advantage of it. This was really fun,
time for questions. And while I hunt down the first question here in the chat, Alexander, there was a request to pan slowly over all the arrangements. They
let me tweak this a little here.
In detail so they can copy them.
So we can maybe get them all in there. And
okay,
some other
Kathleen, the first question I think is one that's better answered by you. Darla is wondering or has heard that once you stick a stem into floral foam, you should not pull it back out. She doesn't really say why she's
That's an excellent point, and she is correct because the stem makes contact with the foam. If you pull it out, you've broken that contact, and so then it cannot absorb water.
So why can you not pull it out, cut the stem again, and put it back into
that
the
you
bowl?
could do.
Okay.
But you don't just say, "Oh, that's in too far," and pull it out a little bit
There
and
you
leave
go,
it leave it go.
Yeah, you can
would
avoid
have
down
to
below
totally
that.
pull it out, re-clip it, and put it in a different spot.
Okay. That sounds good. Great. Let me hunt down the other questions. They are a little bit further down.
I see Kathleen in the meantime. She has some other foliage that we didn't even talk about. She has some macuba. A lot of people have macuba in their yard. This is one.
Right.
Cuba japonica shill pot, which I can't think of it. Let's see, that's the real name, but it goes by another name. But anyways, pepper pot, I think. Something like that. But anyways, acubas are great in an arrangement as well. They will last for months and then they'll root and
Yes,
you have
they
another
will.
plant. So,
So Paul, of course, from Wilmington, just commented that all of his calicarp have been stripped by the birds. Do
Okay.
you want to mention just a few of the calicarp?
see, the one I have here is actually one of the Asian ones, and they're slower to. They don't go after them as fast. I'm guessing the chemicals in them discourage the birds. Don't break down until later on, after we have some real cold weather. So these are still in fruit, while our native Calicarpa americanas, the chemical that in them that would inhibit birds eating them initially has already broken down. They've fully ripened, and the birds find them delectable, and they are stripped. That's what's going on there, and probably the same reason that the birds don't bother this until real late in the season on the Symphoricarpus is because there's a chemical in there that doesn't break down until much later. They space things out.
Well, I've gone through the chat and I either missed your question, in which case it's already passed, or I don't see any more questions. So if anyone has any more questions for Kathleen or Tim or even myself, go ahead and ask it right now. You can unmute yourself. We can hear you, or just ask it here in the chat.
Well, if you're waiting for that, let me add a comment that all of this that's in these arrangements will last for a very long time. The key to keeping it for a long time is keeping your water fresh. So, of course, you could use the mixture that you use for the summer flowers, but I simply find the clean vase, clean water, a smallest drop of dish soap will do the job for all of the evergreens. But keeping it clean is a big part of keeping your arrangement fresh.
Okay, we had a couple of questions here, Kathleen. Marilyn was wondering where you can buy the floral preservative, and I would add my little 2 cents. Can you make it yourself?
Yes, you can. And I have a recipe, but I don't have it with me.
Probably on the internet.
It's probably online.
You talked about it when we did this.
I
Was it
did.
September?
From what I remember, it's flattened lemon lime soda.
Lemon
You don't
lime
want the
soda with
carbonation in
the
there,
pure
but
sugar. You
want-
need the one with sugar.
Yeah, don't get a diet one. A little bit of sugar helps, and the citric acid helps.
Right.
And that's pretty much all that you really need. But the regular little packets quite often come with your flower arrangements, but they should be available, I'm guessing, at any florist or.
I would think the
available online,
florist or
too.
even online, but online you're going to get pretty much a bulk package of them. I would think if you went to a florist, you could buy 10 or 20 of them, however many you wanted. So that's always an option too.
And Tim, we have an anonymous question. They would like to know the botanical name for the winter sweet again.
I always spit out the wrong one. I think it's Chimonanthus, not Chionanthus, Chimonanthus praecox. And then this is a cultivar called luteus, which is it's a select yellow form. The species is often more this translucent creamy color, not this bright yellow, but equally fragrant regardless.
And I did put that in the chat earlier, so you can go back and copy and paste it.
Okay.
Ooh. Have an anonymous one. I'm not even sure what the product is. Is there a hack for a green glow? It's expensive.
Green glow?
I don't know what green glow
I don't
is.
Is that
know
a
what
wax
that
for
is.
is that a foliar wax?
I was
for
wondering
the-
if it was a
floral
leaf
wax.
shine.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll
thing.
bet it is. I bet it is. And yes, if you wanted to put a shine on your leaves, that would. At one point, I used to do it when I was hand making wreaths and winding the bunches together, and I would use horticultural oil. Was one product, and another product that I used from time to time was floor wax.
Oh.
So what
And
was
mix-
it that you said?
We had a workshop
With the
with
wreath workshop.
Erin Weston,
Yeah.
and she recommended the orange scented Mop and Glow for helping preserve the plants. But I would not do that in an arrangement you want in your house right away because it stunk for 2 weeks. We
I
banned
wouldn't
it to
do
our
that.
garage.
I wouldn't do that in an arrangement, but if you were making a wreath for your door, just a very light spray of floor wax or horticultural oil would give it a little bit of a shine. But I would be very judicious in the amount that I used, very, very little of it.
Yeah, I can't remember the dilution that Erin used.
Yeah, but I don't know the product name by name, but it sounds like that's what it could be.
And hers, of course, was in an effort to keep the color on the Nandina the most. So
Okay.
that was long term because her wreaths are meant for drying, not just to make them shiny, but it certainly made them shiny.
Yes, it would. It would.
But ooh, that thing stunk for the longest time.
Woo, okay.
We did have a comment in here that someone thought you weren't supposed to use the floral foam. This is from Maureen, due to a bacteria that's in the vase. Any comments on that?
Bacteria in the vase.
Yeah, when you have a flower arrangement and just kind of sitting there with the water in it, you're gonna get a little bacteria growth, and the floral foam could be the house for it. I think
If you're
1 or 2 years.
reusing the floral
could,
foam,
yeah.
maybe.
If you're
but if you're using fresh stuff,
Well,
I
yeah,
wouldn't.
that's what.
And that would be another reason only to use it a couple times.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if you're going to use it and change it out after a week, just wash it with a little bit of soap and put it back in. Don't let it dry out. It'll work for a while.
After 2 or 3 times, it probably has too many holes in it.
That's
anyways
it,
to
right?
reuse.
Yeah,
It's
you're not
starting
going.
to
You're
fall
not
apart.
going to get a firm connection.
You end up with a sponge instead,
Yeah.
or Swiss cheese
Yeah.
instead
If
of.
you want to use it, get a frog. They can go in the dishwasher.
Right,
and they
there
can be
you go.
sterilized.
That
works
would
out
work.
quite well.
But if for a short-term arrangement,
Why not?
why not?
Right. Yeah.
So Marilyn's asking that you mentioned a drop of dishwashing liquid in clean water, in a clean vase. What dish soap do you use? Any particular
Whatever
one?
you have.
Yeah.
It's just something to help prevent the bacterial buildup.
Okay. And I've seen the volunteers use denture cleaner on some of the hard to clean vases. Any
Oh,
comments on
that's
that?
a miracle for vases. Go to the dollar store, buy a box of denture cleaner, and follow the directions, drop it in the bottom. It turns blue, bubbles up, and your vase is clean. And especially the ones that have a weird shape on the bottom where you can't really get in there to clean it, that's the ticket. Yes.
Chris is asking, do you think the spiller, thriller, filler works for arranging greenery?
To some extent, yes.
I seem
Why,
to remember
sure it
those
does.
lessons
Yeah.
being taught in floral design.
Yeah.
Gives you some dynamic appearance to the arrangement that way. If you have something draping, and
Right.
And
So
get some
you've got
height to it.
spiller. Yeah.
I think a lot of the same rules apply.
I think it's very much the same rules. If you were one to follow rules.
Yeah, I don't think Kathleen follows rules. Do you, Kathleen? No,
you just
don't.
stick whatever you want in.
I'll
Whatever
admit
looks
it.
pleasing.
I follow Mother Nature's rules, and I let the flowers tell me what they want to do, and that's pretty much the way I enjoy putting things together.
And she certainly makes a lovely flower
Thank you.
arrangement. But notice you have the cryptomeria kind of
That's your spiller.
flowing down.
Right, here
and
you
have
go.
Your thriller, your camellia, and your filler, the gypsophila,
And
the greenery,
and the
thriller being-
these-
Symphoric
The
carpus.
Symphoricarpus, okay, and then the little baby's breath. All right, okay.
That's pretty close to the rules right there.
Okay, there you go. The rules are followed.
Rules are set in
Okay.
stone. Kathleen follows them whether she knows it or not.
That could be the case.
Sandy is now wanting you guys to have a timed competition for flower arranging between both of you.
Oh.
Oh, darn, we're out of time.
Yeah,
Not a lot of time.
I have a whole garden. It
Yeah.
takes me a while to walk around it.
Yeah.
I think Kathleen will win those. Tim knows where all the stuff is out in the garden.
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
Kathleen will probably beat him on the arrangements.
So, okay.
So Marilyn's asked, she's seen hellebores floating. Can
Yep.
you use them in a vase with stems?
You can. You have to. Sometimes they wilt. You have. Is there?
I've found a way to use them, but there again, it's a one-day arrangement,
Yeah.
and I have found success with immersing the entire thing in water. The stem, the leaf, the flower top, totally immerse it in water for a couple of hours, and then it doesn't wilt quite as quickly.
I've also done it like flowers that aren't super fresh. If they, because hellebores, it's actually, I think they're sepals. They're not actually petals. Once they've aged a little, the sepals will hold up really well once they've aged. But when they're real fresh and just opening, they have more of a tendency to wilt. But if you get them once they have several in the inflorescence open and you just have one or two that are fresh, you'll often get something that'll will hold up much better.
And when they kind of turn a
Greenish.
soft greenish color.
Because they're
and
starting to photosynthesize
Right.
as modified leaves in the,
Right.
the sepals. So.
Well, that takes care of all the online
Well,
questions.
good.
And we have no audience, so no in-person questions either. So thank you very much, Kathleen. And
You're
thank you,
very
Tim,
welcome.
For joining us
You're
today.
It's
welcome.
always fun.
Thank you to the entire online audience for coming in today. We're glad you could join us. We hope to see you next week with Doug and learning how to plant some seeds right now that need some winter chill so they germinate in the spring. We'll see you then. Have a great week.